So in this video, I'm going to talk about Wisconsin beating Michigan State this week. If you've been following my videos, I've been talking about all of these interrelated sports stories. You know, Colin Kaepernick not standing during the national anthem, Teddy Bridgewater getting injured, and Sam Bradford going there. I also talked about the death of Sam Foltz, the Nebraska punter, who died in Wisconsin with Michigan State's ex-punter, Mike Sadler. So I'm going to show you what I had posted on my blog before the game, and then I'm going to talk about what happened during the game. But all these games are completely scripted. On my blog, I talked about how I thought Michigan State was more favored to win this game. I thought possibly since LSU lost against Wisconsin, and LSU also had the player Colby Delahousse in the car accident, possibly that meant Michigan State and Nebraska would both beat Wisconsin since the accident happened there. And there were some other things, the way the numbers aligned. The 44 is a kill number. There, Wisconsin's quarterback lost his starting position after completing 44 passes. Their field goal kicker was out of the game after making 44 field goals. Wisconsin equals 44. So obviously them people weren't in the game because of the kill number, not the other way around. And if you think that because I got the pick wrong, that what I'm showing you is not credible, then you're crazy. I'm showing you the script. I don't care who wins these games anymore. I know they're scripted, and I've proven it over and over again. So it doesn't matter to me who wins. If I get it right, that's awesome. And I've got it right lots of times. I've also missed it. But for me, it seems to be just so loaded with certain stuff that sometimes it's very hard for me to read and understand what is good and what's bad, or why it's good and why it's bad. And that's why a long time ago I said I didn't want to make picks anymore. I just want to show the script. I mean, honestly, the ultimate point would be to get it right every single time. But I'm not that good at reading the script yet. I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I'm still haven't perfected how it's being read. But like I said, the script is obvious. If you watch what I'm going to show you in this video, you're going to say, how is that even possible? So as I was researching before the game, I found a whole lot of 63 and 36 around the Wisconsin Badgers. And it seemed to be something that wasn't positive, but I haven't really seen 63 a whole lot in regards to sports. So anyway, I'll show some of that stuff as we move on here. But I noticed that the car wreck that Mike Sadler, the former Michigan State punter, and Sam Foltz, the Nebraska punter, died in was 63 days before Wisconsin and Michigan State played. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. 63 days, also 2 months, 1 day. I'll get to that. I also noticed that Wisconsin plays Nebraska 3 months, 6 days after that car accident, the mirror of 63, 36, 63, and when Wisconsin plays Nebraska, they play them on October 29th, the day that leaves 63 days in the year. I also noticed that Mike Sadler was born on November 19th, and Sam Foltz was born on January 21st. Their birthdays are 63 days apart. Wisconsin's most one-sided loss ever was also 63-0 to Minnesota. So Minnesota beat them 63-0. Also, the last time that Michigan State and Wisconsin played was on October 27th of 2012. Michigan State won 16-13, but it gave Wisconsin a 6-3 record. Also notice the total score of 29. If you write out Badgers, it equals 29. The word football equals 29. Huskers also equal 29. And another reason I thought Michigan State might win was because of the date numerologies. And, you know, the date numerology of this game right here, the last time they played, was 69 and 49, and the game that they played on September 24th also had a date numerology of 69 and 49. And I thought, interesting, they became 6-3. Their worst ever loss was 63-0. I thought possibly, since it was 63 days after the death of Mike Sadler, that was a bad thing for Wisconsin. Also in regards to 29, so we got 29 and 92 is its mirror. On sportsreference.com, it says that Michigan State is in its 92nd season. And this is where I was a little wondering, because on Wikipedia it says 121st season, and on Sports Reference it says 92nd season. And it said the same thing with Wisconsin. The seasons were different, so I wasn't quite sure on some of the stats. But what I did find interesting on sportsreference.com, it says that Michigan State's in their 92nd season, and Wikipedia says 121st. That's a difference of 29 seasons. Michigan State even plays in East Lansing, Michigan. East Lansing equals 121. Supposedly on Wikipedia, they're in their 121st season. They also joined the Big Ten in 1953. So according to sportsreference.com, that was their 29th season. They played their first game this year on 9-2 or 2-9 against Furman. Also last year in the Big Ten championship game, the whole game was about 29. I remember originally I had picked Iowa, but then later on I talked about how I think Michigan State's going to win, I think. Possibly I'm wrong, but whatever. Iowa lost by 3. 3 in gematria equals 29. That's also Mike Sadler's number. Mike Sadler wore number 3. The Big Ten championship was in Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil equals 29 and 92. The score was 16-13, a total score of 29. The reason that originally I thought it was Iowa, the 29th state. Their stadium opened in 1929. The only president from Iowa became president in the year 29. Iowa even has Interstate 29 that goes through it. D'Antonio, Michigan State's coach, his last name equals 92. So just wanted to point out some more 29 stuff, because possibly Michigan State being in their 92nd season, I wasn't quite sure. Anyway, moving on. So as I was looking stuff up, I found out that the quarterback Bart Houston, and Houston has been a huge area of topic in regards to all kinds of stuff, you know. Houston equals 112. We're going into the 112th World Series. Houston is holding the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl 51. Houston equals 112. LSU, who lost to Wisconsin, LSU is in their 112th season. Les Miles went into the game against Wisconsin with 112 wins for LSU. Last year, they even won the Texas Bowl, getting his 112th win in Houston. So anyway, Bart Houston loses his starting spot, and they put in Alex Hornibrook. And last week, Alex Hornibrook just so happened to come into the game when the score was 3-6 or 6-3. He even came in the game after Georgia State scored 3 points, making the score 3-6 or 6-3. And they did that in the third quarter with 6 minutes, 6-3 once again. And he actually came in, his first drive started at 5:53 because of the kickoff. But still very interesting. He comes in after that drive of Georgia State getting a field goal, making the score 6-3 with 6 minutes in the third quarter. His first drive started on the 31-yard line. And, you know, I thought possibly that might have something to do with Wisconsin going to be 3-1 instead of 4-0 in their next game. Also, if you look up their coach, Paul Christ's record, it was 13-3 at the time before Michigan State. So if they lost, he would have became 13-4 in his career at Wisconsin. If you write out the word 31, it equals 134, a lot like that record. But 31 also equals 53, just like Paul Christ's name equals 53. Wisconsin, with the S exception, equals 53. It was also the 53rd time that Michigan State and Wisconsin have ever played. Michigan State was going for their 31st win, and they were ranked number 8. If you write out the word 8, 8 equals 31. Wisconsin was ranked number 11, though, and the 11th prime is 31. If you write out the word 11, it equals 63. Hence, once again, I thought 63 was something bad for them. Also, as far as I know, the only other number that equals 134 when you write it out, there's 31 equals 134, but also 84 equals 134. And if you write out Michigan State Spartans, it equals 84. So I also did talk about if Wisconsin wins, they'll be 4-0, a lot like 40. And if you write out 40, it equals 84 and 30. So interesting, Michigan State Spartans equals 84, and they stayed on 30 wins, and Wisconsin became 4-0. Also, last week, when they beat Georgia State, they won with a total score of 40 points, and Hornibrook's first pass was a 29-yard reception. Also, just in general, Wisconsin was going for its 23rd win, and I'll show you, there's a whole bunch of 23 that happened in the game, and it was all right before halftime, and I thought, man, I'm completely wrong. Wisconsin's going to win this game. But even just thinking about it, Wisconsin, the big W, the 23rd letter, going for 23 wins. I also pointed out that their coach, though, could get his 23rd career loss. And one thing I guess I should have just really thought about, the guy's name equals 143 in gematria, Paul Christ, 143, and his record became 14-3 at Wisconsin. That should have been a dead giveaway. But whatever, I just missed it. And the reason I even bring that up is I was actually going to write in the blog thing about how Mark D'Antonio is going for his 108th win at Michigan State, and they even play on October 8th. So I thought, man, they're probably either going to get their his 108th win on this game against BYU on 10-8, or possibly go into the game with 108 wins. But I kept telling myself, no way they're going to lose, to Wisconsin and then Indiana and then get his 108th win against BYU. But who really knows? I made bad judgment on that just because of a personal decision instead of actually just following the script. I should have wrote it in here, but whatever. Anyway, back to the 63 stuff that seems to be bad for Wisconsin. Mike Sadler, Michigan State's ex-punter, his first game against Wisconsin was on 10/22 of 2011. That just so happened to have a date numerology of 63, and Michigan State won the game. The date numerology was also 43. If you write out Mike Sadler equaled 43. Remember, he died with Nebraska punter Sam Foltz. Nebraska played their first game 43 days later. They played Fresno State that equals 43. They scored 43 points in that game. Nebraska has 43 conference championships, and then he dies with Mike Sadler that equals 43. Anyway, moral of the story, wanted to show the 63 yet again. So the first time Mike Sadler plays Wisconsin, it's on a date numerology of 63. The second time that he played Wisconsin was in the Big Ten Championship in Lucas Oil, and they lost to Wisconsin. But Lucas Oil equals 29 like Badgers. And I know last year they won, and there was all the 29 connections, and they lost to Iowa. But Iowa doesn't have anything in gematria that equals 29. They just have connections to 29 in other ways. Also in that Big Ten Championship game against Wisconsin, Michigan State was ranked 11th, and Wisconsin beat them and got their 11th win. And remember, Wisconsin was ranked 11th going into the game on September 24th. And if you write out 11 equals 63. So in that instance, it seemed as 63 was good for Wisconsin. Anyway, that also means that Mike Sadler in his career against Wisconsin was 2-1. And remember, 63 days was also 2 months, 1 day. So he died 2 months, 1 day before that game. He was 2-1 against Wisconsin in his career. Michigan State lost, and they became 2-1 on the season. I even showed that Wisconsin last season was ranked number 21 after winning the Holiday Bowl. They won 23-21, that equals 44. Wisconsin equals 44. Another thing that was interesting, and it actually came back up during the game, which I'll talk about as we move on, but In the Georgia State game, Wisconsin was ranked number 9 and they scored 23 points. This number was super significant in regards to Pope Francis's visit and the Cleveland Cavaliers, also the Golden State Warriors in 2015. But also after they won this game, they went back to ranked number 11th, so a lot like 9-11 and 9-23. I've talked about the significance of that, 11:09 on a clock, a lot like 9-11 backwards. In military time, it's 23:09. Also, the date numerology of 9/11, 9, and then it's 1 and 1, so 2, and then 2001, 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 equals 3, a lot like 923. Very significant numbers. They were super significant in the NBA Finals. In 2015, Steph Curry shot 9 of 23 against the Chicago Bulls. That was the last home loss they lost to against the Bulls, and then they beat the Chicago Bulls home game win streak last year of 44 wins. And the game that they beat the Bulls on, when he shot 9 of 23, they didn't beat the Bulls, I don't think, but the game he shot 9 of 23 against the Bulls, 4 months and 4 days before the NBA Finals, and that was their last home loss to the Bulls, and then they beat the Bulls' 44-game win streak the next season. In 2015, that was also the first season Steph Curry had ever shot 9 of 23, and Klay Thompson also shot 9 of 23 for the first time ever against the Chicago Bulls. It was in December of that same season. And Steph Curry shot 9 of 23 on February 11th. That was the last time he did it in that season. Which is very interesting because all year last year, I talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers possibly being back in the finals against the Warriors because LeBron James shot 9 of 23 on November 4th. And it was 211 days before the NBA Finals began. If you write out LeBron James in Jewish gematria equals 923. He was in the movie Trainwreck, and, there was the Philadelphia Trainwreck that was connected to the 2015 NBA Finals that happened at 9:23 p.m. In the movie Trainwreck, Amy Schumer's character is 9 years old in the beginning. The rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. So there was something in regards to the 211 and the 9 of 23. And remember, Sam Foltz was born on January 21st, 21/1. He died 211 days after his final game with Nebraska. There's something very special about it. I don't know if it's connected to Wisconsin or with Nebraska through all of this, but just interesting in regards to them being connected to the 9 of 23. And last year, none of the Golden State Warriors shot 9 of 23, but LeBron James shot 9 of 23, and 146 days later, Kyrie Irving shot 9 of 23. Every time Kyrie Irving has shot 9 of 23, LeBron James did not play in the game. If you write out LeBron James didn't play, it equaled 219, just like back-to-back championships. But later on, I found out that if you write out back-to-back, it equals 69, just like Cleveland Cavaliers. Anyway, moral of the story, just wanted to point out the significance of them being ranked number 9 and scoring 23 points, and then being sent back to being ranked number 11 after being ranked number 9. Also, in regards to the 211, that seems to be very popular. If you write out Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where a lot of this goes back to the Alton Sterling and Philando Castile stuff, Baton Rouge, Louisiana equals 219. And if you write out Minnesota and Louisiana together, it equals 211. So moving on some of the stuff that I thought was bad for Wisconsin here. So Bart Houston, their starting quarterback, he loses his starting position to Alex Hornibrook after completing 44 passes, 44 of 71, which is interesting because Nebraska equals 71. And I even talked about it in the very beginning of the post. If Nebraska wins all of their games up to their game against Wisconsin and they lose, they'll even be 7-1. Anyway, in regards to 44, Wisconsin equals 44, Paul Christ equals 44. If you write out the word 63, it equals 153 and 54. Just like if you write out Bart Houston, 153 and 54. So once again, I thought, man, he's connected to 44 and 63. There's no wonder that he's not playing. But I guess if he would have played, they probably would have lost. Now that I think back on it. But at the time, I was just thinking, oh, that can't be good. And, of course, also with their field goal kicker, you know, their field goal kicker, Rafael, whatever, Gaglianone, he had 44 career field goals, and then he doesn't play. And even Wisconsin's first score was a touchdown catch by number 44. His last name, Steffs, equals 44. I mean, the script is just undeniable. Whether you get it right or wrong before it happens, that's the other part, you know? I also pointed out that Bart Houston equals 31 and also 40 with the S exception. So pretty much no matter if they won or lost, that was fitting, 31 and 40. East Lansing equaled 40. I even pointed out that Houston, the Houston College, was playing Texas State. If you write out Texas State, it equaled 134 and 44. And 44 is the kill number. So I just thought that's very interesting. I guess it's just in regards to Houston, though, there. So I guess I actually did write the D'Antonio stuff in here. Mark D'Antonio had 107 wins. Spartans equals 108. Mark D'Antonio equaled 63. Hence, when I thought 63 was bad for Wisconsin. I also thought it would be fitting because his record was 89 and 33 with Michigan State. Overall, it's 107 games. I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning. But I thought it'd be fitting if he got his 90th win with 33 losses. Just for the fact that the word 90 equals 33. And Mike Sadler also got inducted into the Hall of Fame just days before this game. They even had a tribute to him, and they wrote the big number 3 in the middle of the field. They even tweeted about it at 3:43, a lot like the Mirrors, 34 and 43. Mike Sadler equals 43. It's also interesting that he died on July 23rd, which can be written as 23/7. If you write out Michigan State Spartans the big way, it equals 237, just like the day that he died. If you write out 237 in Gematria equals 108, and their coach was going for his 108th career win, Spartans equals 108. His mom was the one who accepted his Hall of Fame induction. Karen Sadler equaled 108. So, interesting. I didn't think I wrote that in here, but whatever. Hall of Fame equals 43, just like Mike Sadler. I noticed, too, that he was born on November 19th of 1991. I never noticed that before. So he died 119 days before his birthday. Just think about it in regards to 11/19 even. Very similar. But November 19th, it was a very big day in history. It was the day that King Charles I was born. I talked about how it's connected to Pope Francis giving a speech using Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern in Philadelphia last year, but the Gettysburg Address was given on November 19th. I talked about Jodie Foster in the movie Money Monster and how that was connected to King Charles. I even talked about the assassinated President James Garfield, who died on November 19th, but he was born on, or died on September 19th, but he was born on November 19th. If you write out September 19th, it equals 91. If you write out November 19th, it equals 91. 91 was just a big elimination number last year. It seems to be following through with this year. Even Nebraska's player, Pearson DeMornay, his name equaled 91. He got hurt celebrating last year, supposedly. But the biggest thing that I noticed about this guy was a lot of stuff that I've been talking about. It says that he was born in Stamford, Connecticut. And I just talked about the trash can bombing stuff and how it was connected to the Boston bombing or the Boston Marathon bombing. Stamford, Connecticut just so happens to be the place where the first ever marathon in the United States was. It's also where Gene Wilder died listening to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I talked about him in my playlist that I'll put in the description and how it's connected to all of this. It's also where Jackie Robinson died, and I mean, it just goes together with all these civil rights, Civil War stuff they're pounding us with. Colin Kaepernick not standing. Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown on Back to the Future, is also from there. It's just very interesting. It connects to a whole lot of stuff that I've talked about. Trash can equals 84 in Gematria. Mike Sadler died 8 months, 4 days after his birthday. Michigan State Spartans equals 84. I mean, it's the same way constantly. I've showed so many times. It just drives me crazy. I tell people about this, and they just say, oh, whatever, no big deal. And it just, it's so annoying after a while. What are the odds that the team he plays for equals 84 and he dies 8 months, 4 days after his birthday? This stuff happens constantly. It also says that he was in the Honor Society Phi Kappa Phi, which, go figure, just so happens to be headquartered in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where Kobe Delahousse, the only player to survive that car accident they were in, was from. Also, LSU plays Wisconsin the first game of the season and loses. It even says there's 71,000 collegiate members, 35,000 lifetime members. If you write out the word Nebraska, it equals 35 the small way, 71 the big way. And it was founded 119 years ago. Remember, he died 119 days before his birthday on 11/9 of 91. I mean, lots of ones and nines. In regards to Sam Foltz in Nebraska, Nebraska plays Wisconsin 84 days before Sam Foltz would have been his birthday. 84 days, 2 months, 23 days. The synagogue of Satan equals 223. The word Masonic equals 223. Nebraska and Michigan State play Wisconsin 35 days apart. Remember, Nebraska equals 35. Also, if you go from the exact amount of days that Mike Sadler is older than Sam Foltz, it's 2 years, 2 months, 2 days. If you write out Nebraska Cornhuskers, it equals 222. So who knows, I've been saying all year there's something super connected to Nebraska, and it's all connected to what's going on with the media in regards to Lincoln, Nebraska, and Abraham Lincoln. And Lincoln, they play in the Sea of Red. It's connected to Moses, and Moses and Abraham Lincoln both freed the slaves. Nebraska plays their last bowl game in Foster Farms Bowl in Levi Stadium, Moses and the tribe of Levi. Just makes me wonder what exactly is the whole point of it. Is Nebraska gonna get to 112 wins like I've talked about previously? Or is it all coded up for Wisconsin? There's also a Teen Wolf aspect to it, which makes me wonder about Michigan, who plays Wisconsin this week. And it's just kind of funny that Les Miles, the ex-Michigan player, and also he was like one of the assistant coaches for Michigan, he gets fired just before Wisconsin plays Michigan. Nebraska plays Wisconsin 98 days, also 3 months, 6 days, but 98 days after the death of Sam Foltz. The festival that I'm talking about in regards to sacrificing and celebrating the wolf Lupercalia, it equals 98. Jim Harbaugh equals 98. Tom Brady equals 98, became the starter at Michigan in the year 98. Brady Bunch equals 98. Snickers equals 98. Remember the Brady Bunch Snickers commercial in the Super Bowl when the Patriots played? Michigan Wolverines even equals 98. And then we even get Kevin Garnett announcing his retirement, the original Teen Wolf of the NBA, the guy I've talked about in regards to all of this for over a year. Anyway, in regards to Wisconsin equals 125 in Gematria. Hornibrook, the new starting quarterback, his last name equals 125. On sportsreference.com, it even says Wisconsin's in its 125th season. So, seems very fitting if they have a great season. We'll see how it all plays out. But let's look at what actually happened in this game now that I've talked about all of this stuff. So, Wisconsin wins the game 30-6. In numerology, you don't use the 0. 30-6 is a lot like 36. And even if you total up the score, 30 plus 6, 36. The 36, 63 stuff I talked about. Also, I never even thought about it, but if you include the end date and you go from this day, 9/24, to the day that Nebraska plays them, it's also a span of 36 days. So interesting. Something to think about just in case. So when the game was on, one of the things I didn't know before the game was the star linebacker for Michigan State was out of the game, number 30, Riley Bolo. And it's just interesting because they show this stat during the game. He's number 30, and Michigan State currently had 30 wins going against Wisconsin. So I thought, is Michigan State going to stay on 30 wins because number 30's out? They also showed us this stat of Wisconsin's running back, Corey Clement. He's averaging 6.3 yards per rush in his career, the 63 yet again. There's even a big interception here, the first interception of the game. It was on 3rd and 6, a lot like 36. You can't see it here, but it was number 8 who intercepted the ball, and the ball was going to number 11. They were ranked 11 and 8. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of here. When I start talking about the 23 stuff, I'll show you what I'm talking about. The word death equals 118, though. There was even a weird play or a weird call in the game. Wisconsin got their first penalty in 6 quarters, they said, and they made a big deal out of it because the ref said that the penalty was disconcerting defense. And they were like, oh, that can't be the correct term, blah, blah, blah. But notice the time that this penalty happened. It was the first time in 6 quarters, and it was with 6:36 left, 63-36 in the second quarter. So, with a minute 23 left in the first half, Michigan State kicked their second field goal. They got to the 23-yard line, and then he had to kick a 40-yard field goal, they said. But there was all kinds of foreshadowing to the number 23 in this game, at least what I got to watch. And remember, Wisconsin was going for its 23rd win against Michigan State. Anyway, at the minute 23, Michigan State got to the 23-yard line, and they kicked their second field goal. He made a 40-yard field goal. And the reason that stuck out to me so much is because Mark D'Antonio was coaching his 123rd game at Michigan State. Wisconsin going for their 23rd win to become 4-0, and he makes a 40-yard field goal. It was also on 4th and 11, which, 4 times 11, even 44, like the kill number. But the word assassin equals 411. JFK died on 411 Elm Street. It's a number associated with death, and I thought, you know what, Wisconsin's probably going to win this game. And after he made the field goal, the stop clocked it a minute 18. The word death equals 118. Remember, they were ranked 11 and 8. The first interception of the game was literally number 8 intercepted it, and the ball was going to number 11. Anyway, right after that happened, Michigan State kicks the ball off, and this guy right here, Dare, however you say his name, Ogunbowale, he runs it. He gets the ball 2 times for a run. He's number 23, and after he runs the ball, the Michigan State player, number 23, falls to the ground and fakes an injury. He even comes back in 1 play later. And they kept zooming in on him. Like, they zoomed in on this guy multiple times of the game, if you go back and watch it. Or at least after he got hurt, they zoomed in on him at least like 2 or 3 more times. And you're like, what in the world? They're showing us this 23 like no other. I knew after that, I was like, yeah, Wisconsin's going to win. They're showing us the 23. But number 23 on Wisconsin, I didn't know this before. His name equals 143 in gematria. Just like the coach of Wisconsin, his name equaled 143. And after he won this game, his record became 14-3, a lot like 143. In regards to 23, I thought it was interesting, too, that Sam Foltz, the Nebraska punter, the first game he ever played against Wisconsin was his 23rd game playing for Nebraska on November 15th of 2014. Notice Nebraska lost by 35 points. Nebraska equals 35. They were ranked 11th. 11 equals 63. Wisconsin was ranked 11th going into the game against Michigan State. The second time that Sam Foltz played Wisconsin, Wisconsin scored 23 points on them. And notice the total was 44. Just interesting because Wisconsin equals 44 in gematria. Nebraska, with the S and K exception, also equals 44. The total score was 44 points. But it was also Sam Foltz's 31st game. Remember, the 11th prime number is 31. Once again, connecting back to the 63 and the 31. So just interesting, trying to piece it all together in my brain. So, since Wisconsin's field goal kicker was out of the game, they had a guy who had never kicked a field goal in a college game being their field goal kicker. He normally played defense or whatever. But anyway, they drove the ball to the 23-yard line, and he made his first ever field goal, and it gave them 23 points. They drove to the 23-yard line. He kicks his first field goal. It was a 41-yarder, but it gave them 23 points. The line of scrimmage was on the 23-yard line. His last name, Endicott, equals 36. He also wore number 37, and he made his first ever extra point in a college game to make the score 3-7. Like I mentioned previously, the old kicker went out after 44 career kicks made or whatever. Number 44 scored the first touchdown for Wisconsin. His name equals 44. I'm going to play this little clip here too. We'll see how crappy it is, but they mentioned the 63, even though it was a 66-yard return. The announcers say it was a 63-yard return. And then they go on to tell us that this Musso guy, Leo Musso, had 87 touchdowns in high school. Musso equals 87, go figure. But just listen to the commentators. They say a 63-yard.
You just saw the running back in Musso come out. 63-yard fumble return for 6. And Kevin, at the end of that run, there was one guy who could have made a play, and Musso slowed down to allow his blockers to catch up to him. The ball comes out right there. Dixon did an outstanding job of getting his helmet on the ball. Right there, ball's out. Fortuitous bounce. Now watch him run. This is outstanding running. He feeds on Connor and then allows his blockers to do the rest. And there's 6 quick.
And the extra point is good. And the Badger lead grows to 20-6. Leo Musso, 87 times in his high school career with a touchdown. He grabs one here in East Lansing.
And that wasn't the first time, or that was the first time they mentioned it, but they keep mentioning 87 touchdowns. They mention it later on in the game. His name equals 87. It's absolutely planned that way. Anyway, last thing I want to talk about in regards to this game, and I talked about the 923. So this is their star running back or whatever, Wisconsin's, and he ran for 23 yards, or 23 times. And the other guy had 9 carries, but he was the leading rusher of the game. Just interesting, 9 and 23. Even if you watched when number 23 for Michigan State got hurt, they kept showing number 9 as well on Michigan State. 9 and 23. So what all that means, I don't know for sure, but 9-23, very significant in regards to Pope Francis's visit and whatnot. And it even connected to sports. But I'm going to leave it at there. There's probably more that happened in the game. I didn't get to watch the whole game because it was windy out, and then my dish network didn't work. And then it finally thunderstormed like an hour later. So who knows if that's probably why my dish network didn't work. It always seems to work that way. But I didn't get to watch a whole lot of the game. after Michigan State fumbled their punt. I didn't get to see anything after that until like 5 minutes or something in the game. But, you know, all the stuff I talked about in this happened. I just honestly thought 63 might have been bad for Wisconsin. And then Wisconsin, their field goal kicker and their starting quarterback both aren't playing in the game. And they both are connected to 44, the kill number. But when you think back on it, that's why they couldn't play, because if they would have, Wisconsin most likely would have had to lose. So, like I said, just showing the scripting of the games. I didn't even have to make this video and say, hey, I was wrong. But I want to, because I want to show people the scripting no matter if I'm right or wrong. But we'll see what happens with the Nebraska game coming up. I'm really interested in the Michigan game this weekend as well against Wisconsin. But going to leave it at that. If I get time, I'll look through the Michigan versus Wisconsin stuff and see what's going on with that. And, you know, whether I'm right or wrong in that game, I'm sure the stuff that I'm going to show will be popping up in the game. So, because it's all scripted. And, you know, that's the whole point of me making these videos and me blogging stuff. I'm trying to completely figure out the script. So, whatever. Have a great one.